Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's February, late February actually, 2017. It's still kind of chilly out, but man, it is warm compared to the last few years, and it's actually very warm out here. I do believe it's probably in the 40s, low 40s, um, but it really should be much colder where I live. And so I think the trees are even confused. Some of them are trying to like figure out if they should go ahead and start getting ready for spring or not. And we're not that far away. In about a month, we should probably start seeing some things started to full back out. But this video is about your level of preparation and where you are. There's a lot of times that we get so far in our preps, um, but we stop. And you might want to really ask yourself why you stopped. I mean, it could be a money issue and a time issue, but what I've noticed is that rarely are those the real reasons. We typically just don't make it a priority anymore. And the biggest excuse that I hear is, well, I'm more prepared than those around me, so, uh, you know, why do I need to even push it any further? Uh, well, the thing is, though, if you don't have what you need, you don't have what you need. Can you imagine halfway through an emergency? You look at your kids and say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't prep enough food, so yeah, we're not going to have supper tonight and breakfast tomorrow." Or can you imagine, like during a medical emergency, you look to a loved one that's bleeding out and say, well, "You know what? I never got those trauma kits, and thus I don't have a tourniquet, and so we're just going to have to try to make do with what we have. Here's a belt, here's some bandanas tied together. Let's try to stop that bleeding." Um, there is a point, though, that you just have to look at the reality that sometimes you need certain things, and some things are definitely preferred over others. So the first here is to finish at least your core preps. If you've stopped along the way and put a pause on that, I implore you to pick up where you left off, make a real plan and a timeline, and accomplish that. Create a nice foundation for future prepping. It'll give you a peace of mind. And this is something that people don't talk about a lot, because not a lot of people actually get to that point. When you actually get to that point that you have real peace of mind, that you could literally shelter in place in your home for many, many months, if not possibly even over a year, there is a great calm that you'll get about yourself. You'll feel very settled. At least I know I do. Like, I really don't have to even leave the house for many, many months. I mean, I don't want to actually talk about my level of capability, but I think that if you can go like 5, 6, 8 months without even having to leave the house, in worst case scenario, that should probably give you some level of calm and peace of mind. And so all I want to do is just, promote that so that you can feel that as well. And lastly, if you can imagine a circle, and on the rim of this circle, imagine that's where the general population is. And they kind of they walk on the rim of that circle, and they walk in round and round. And during peace times, or normal times, if you will, they walk at a decent pace. They're just kind of relaxed and walking in circles there. And the general population during a crisis, it could even be something like a really bad storm coming in, and people are running and panicking to get their groceries and top off their gas in their vehicle and all this stuff. Or it could even be a lot more serious thing. Maybe like right after a hurricane, people are all panicked and they don't have electricity, and there's no food and no fresh water and so forth. But whatever it is, that rim of the circle is kind of dangerous, wouldn't you say? And so as preppers, I invite you to come where I'm at, and where I live is in the middle of the circle. I live in the middle of that circle, and I'm not really affected, just like a lot of other preppers that live in the middle of the circle with me. We're not affected with the rat race of life. It's almost like a healthy type of dissociation from society, that you don't have to run and do anything. There is no panic and fear, because you already have contingencies, plans, abilities set into place. And that's a really good place to be in your life. That's very cool. Just like having, a plan for retirement. Can you imagine if you're 70 years old and you're wanting to stop working, right? But you never saved for retirement? Well, you may say, what about Social Security? But like I know, you pretty much can't live off just Social Security. So what's the options? Well, you have to basically still work. That's pretty much all I can think of. You have to work or live at a level that may not be what you would even consider acceptable, So this is the same thing with prepping. You have to look at what your needs are and how you're going to fulfill them in advance. Because when the time comes and you need them, you can't just be sitting there going, yeah, I really could have used a larger first aid and trauma kit. And it's a real shame I don't have that. Or, a real simple one again, food. Darn, I wish I put back a few more months worth of food because my neighbors over there are starving and I can't go to bed at night with the knowledge that those kids are starving and here I have all this food. Some people will have problems with dealing with a lot of this. And so for example, if you know that maybe your most immediate neighbors, the neighbors that you love and cherish, unfortunately, they don't prep. And there's a really bad issue that happens, an emergency or disaster, a crisis, a calamity of rare but epic proportions. And they're going without food and they're starving, literally starving to death. Of course, this is something that hopefully would never happen, but it could. And it does sometimes around the world. You may give them some of your own food, possible. Or you could have just thought ahead and said, okay, I have extra food for them just in case. And it may not be that much. It may not even take up that much space. Maybe you have a little, open section in a basement or even in a shed that you can just take a few things, a few buckets of dried food and put it in there and, and it's good for decades. Maybe it's freeze dried, and maybe for a small investment of a few $100s, you're able to really mitigate suffering and possibly even death to other people. And can you imagine how that would feel? How happy you would be to hand over that food to keep your neighbor's kids at least from suffering or from death? I mean, these are things that once again are not most likely going to happen, but they could. And if we're in that position, wouldn't that be great to at least have thought about this a little bit? We don't have to think about this every day. And I want to caution people who just dwell on these things. I want to be upfront that I don't think about this a lot. I just know that sometimes it's best, though, to acknowledge the realities of the world and at least have one good, brainstorming session and get it on paper if you wish, but basically have a plan. And if you want to revisit that plan once a year, I think that's a smart idea. But you don't have to think about this all the time. I mean, prepping is not some kind of fear-based response. Prepping is not fearful, but it is a way to actually enjoy our lives even more. Because if we have what we need in bad times, then we're avoiding all this suffering and needless pain. And it doesn't need to be. Because we have God-given minds, the ability of forethought. I mean, think about all of these abilities that we have. And a lot of times we don't even use half of the facilities that are given to us. Our abilities in terms of our talents. I mean, think about all the things that we're actually good at and how many times we actually use them. Isn't that crazy, though? Isn't that just almost disgusting about how much we waste? Just in terms of our abilities, not even talking about the waste that we do, like with our food and just driving around and burning up different types of energies and keeping lights on in the house all day and night. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not guilty of this. I'm just saying that in general, we are kind of sloppy. A lot of us, not all of us. And I think I'm sure that a lot of us are good people, but we have to admit that we can do things better if we want to. But a lot of us don't choose to. I have really good neighbors for the most part, but I mean, I see them with their porch light on, all day and night. I see them, make multiple trips, and this is their right to do it. but they'll go up to, the nearest town where I live, anywhere from 3 to 5 times in a day is kind of normal for some of my neighbors. Some of them are retired. And I think it's just they have nothing to do, so they just kind of go out for little drives. And that's cool. If that's what they want to do with their time, who am I to say? But if you're someone that's trying to be conserving energy, I would set it up so maybe like every 2 or 3 days, I'll make a trip into town and get what I need or socialize and then come back. And instead of making all these trips. And that's pretty common to a lot of people I know, is that they don't think out their outings. They just have very narrow thinking. Okay, I don't have any groceries, so I have to go get groceries. They go get groceries, they come back home, and they're like, man, I should have gotten gas. I have to go get gas now. And then they'll make a separate trip just to get gas, only to come home to realize that they forgot to get a movie, at what is it called, the Red Box or whatever. I don't even watch movies, but they forgot to get a movie or something somewhere, or they forgot to go to maybe a hardware store to get a certain tool, and they'll make multiple trips in the same. I've seen it so many times. It's almost like, oh my gosh, take 5 minutes before you go anywhere, right? And just get a piece of paper, brainstorm all the things you need, and you'll be surprised about how quick you can knock them out. Because in a lot of places, just like in the previous city that I used to live, all the stores that you typically would ever need is like right next to each other. I mean, you could literally walk to them, boom, 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 and you're done. But yet I had so many neighbors even back then that would make multiple trips. And it's like, wow. And you wonder why you burn up so much fuel, and you have no money because you just are very disorganized. So anyways, hey, thanks for joining me. I wish you the very best in your prepping. And I'm really impressed by a lot of people on here. I think you guys are doing great on your level of preps. Keep moving to get your foundational preps if you haven't had it, that finished yet. Move in that direction so you can get that finished and feel that beginning sensation of peace of mind. Everyone be well. Catch you later.